sometimes our experience is kind of out of date, especially with all these new majors coming in and careers emerging, but just how the system works and really what it's like to go from high school to college. But then it makes us even prouder to hear when students continue their education and they go beyond that. And so Fernanda went to law school, which even I'm going to have a conversation with her one day. It's so fascinating. I've never really had a conversation about what that's like with somebody that I know. So tell us about your life, please, Fernanda.
Okay, I mean, I'll guess I'll start from the beginning, from college.
Well,
Um,
you could go back to a little bit in high school. Like, what were you like as a student, or what was it like being an avid, or
yeah,
what was life like for you too? Like, what was your family, or what was your who are you? Tell us a little bit of who you are, and it'll give us some context.
okay, so my family and I moved to the US from Mexico when I was 9 or 10 years old. I was in fourth grade. Um, so we moved. Obviously, it was rough in the beginning. I would say out of my siblings, I had the roughest time just kind of getting used to the US. I was the most embarrassed to speak English in front of everyone. I had the hardest time learning English. I just missed Mexico so much. But eventually you get used to it. And I had a teacher in sixth grade who really just got me comfortable speaking English. He would have us sing every morning when we first got to class. The first thing we would do was just sing. He would just have us sing.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so I think that's what really just got me comfortable speaking the language. And then after sixth grade, I felt more like myself again. In Mexico, even, elementary school, but I had always been a good student. I had never had bad grades or anything, but fifth grade was like my worst grade year ever. Like I failed classes, like I had D's and C's. It was bad. My parents were very concerned in fifth grade.
Do you remember what was going on?
Yeah, I was just really sad. I really missed Mexico. I missed my friends. I missed my family. I was embarrassed to speak English. I just didn't really.
Yeah, I came when I was in second grade from Canada, and I remember that. So you were in fourth grade, and I think it's like you said, it's harder for the older. My sister was 16, and she
Yeah.
fell in with the wrong crowd. She really had a hard time in her life. Thank goodness she kind of came back from that. But it seems, the older ones, the younger ones are able to adapt
Yeah,
a little bit more. But
for
yeah,
sure.
I kind of remember that. I think some of the students will even know that feeling, like the embarrassment, the fear. I was picked on a lot, and we did things differently. We spoke a little weird and from Canada. Um, I hated it. I was in second grade. I ditched. Sorry to interrupt. I'll stop interrupting. But
No, no,
I
you're
called the school and pretended to be a woman's voice, as in second grade, 6 or 7 years old. Said that I had the stomach flu. I thought I was so smart, like no one would catch me. Stomach flu is so sophisticated. And I ditched school in second grade. That's how bad I didn't want to go.
that's real. Oh, I'm sad. I'm
And I
sad.
would have nightmares about it. But yeah, then they call you white boy and make fun of you. Everybody. And I'm not saying this is my experience. I think everybody at some time where we're made fun of or felt different, but
Yeah.
obviously moving is so difficult. So continue. I'm sorry.
No, you're good. I like conversations more than me speaking for the entire time. Um, so yeah, after sixth grade, I felt more comfortable just being myself, getting back into the group of school, made friends who I still talk to this day. Um, and then in high school, yeah, I was a good student. I got good grades. I loved Avid. My main group of friends, my core group of friends, I made through Avid. We still hang out often to this day. I still see them and love them.
Great
Um,
group of people. Great group of people.
yeah, and we all met through Avid essentially. So, Avid has always held a really special place in my heart, not just socially, because I'm my friends and I met Mr. Fraser and Mr. D, who I still, love and keep in touch with to this day as well. But I do feel that it really did help me do things that I wouldn't have done regardless. Without Avid, I wouldn't have applied to scholarships. I probably wouldn't have known how to be on track with college without Avid, just because I'm sure, as many of you are as well, first generation or future first generation college students, you don't really know. There's no one there to help you other than, in my case, it was Avid. So I'm just really grateful to Avid for that. And I know sometimes people don't really know what Avid is or if it actually helps, but in my experience, it did help a lot. So that's my little pitch for Avid.
Yeah, thank you. What was it like then? Do you remember what it was like transitioning from middle school to high school?
From middle school to high school.
Did you start off like as a great student already by then, or was there any struggle freshman year?
I don't, there was, I mean, normal struggles were more like teen struggles where you're starting high school, you don't really know who you are, you're trying to be cool. But other than that, academically, I don't remember it being too much of a struggle. I've always liked school. I think that's the thing. Even now that I'm very close to being done with school forever, that's something that I'm like dealing with currently. I just don't know how to not be a student. Just because I've been a student my whole life. I've loved being a student my whole life. So it's weird that this phase of my life is gonna come to an end.
You
So
could
yeah.
you could continue in other ways, but yeah, I know how you feel.
Yeah. So yeah, no, I don't remember any like specific struggles transitioning from middle school to high school.
So tell us about what you were like in high school then. What were you involved in, and what kind of classes did you take? Were you a good student, bad student?
I
And
was
did
a
you?
good
Oh,
student.
sorry, one last thing. Did you know what you wanted to do already by high school?
No, so well, in high school, I thought I wanted to be a psychologist. I'm not really sure why. I just thought it was cool. I remember we made vision boards in freshman year Avid class, and my vision board included like psychology and NYU. I don't know why. I just really wanted to go to NYU and I really wanted to be a psychologist. By like junior year, that whole thing was really like done with. I didn't want to be a psychologist anymore and I did not want to move to New York anymore.
Yeah. I'm glad you said vision board though, by the way, because we're going to be doing that soon. So it's, for those of you who don't know, it's basically an awesome way to make goals that are visual, and you make like a poster of everything you want in your life, and it just kind of reminds you what you're trying to go towards. But that changes.
Yeah,
You're
I
gonna
still
see
have,
what you want changes.
yeah, I still have mine and it's fun to look at like every so often and see what I wanted as a freshman in high school compared to where I am now and what I want now. But
You know
yeah,
what's even funner is seeing your friends who want the same thing that they wanted freshman year in high school as they want now.
which I mean, if they were good goals, it's like good for
No,
them.
I'm joking about bad goals.
Yeah.
About being lazy, playing video games all day.
Yeah. But yeah, I'd say I was a good student. I always had pretty good grades. Um, Math and science were never my strong suits, so I was like not great. I mean, I still had good grades in those because I tried really hard to get good grades in those, but they did not come easy to me. But everything else, you know, I took the APs except the science and math ones. Well, I took AP statistics, but I don't know. That one was very fun class, I would say. I don't remember anything about statistics other than what I learned in college. Um, but yeah, you know, I guess I was a good student. I put in the time, I did put in the effort. Involvements. I was involved in clubs. I don't even remember the names of them. There was like Do Something Club. I don't know if that's still around.
So,
Renaissance, Key Club. There was a food one, like an international food one.
do you think your involvement in stuff, like, are you glad you did it, or what do you think? Did you get something from it?
Yeah, aside from, you know, just having something to put on your resume for college, I think it does make you just, there's different people in every club, so it just kind of forces you to talk to other people and it really helps your social skills, something that I didn't realize I would need as much in high school as when I entered college. There's a whole range of people that we've never even been exposed to at MHS that I was glad that at least I got the chance to interact with more people than like my group of like 5 friends from Avid because of those clubs. And it's stuff that's not really apparent to you, or it seems like it's not that big of an impact at the time. But, you know, as you get older, you realize that every little thing you do really does have a big impact in your personality and how you approach things, how the way you talk to people, the way you conduct yourself in front of people. So yeah, I mean, now it's sad because there's really no social interaction through Zoom.
Yeah, no, for sure. We'll get back to it. I mean, hopefully soon we're gonna have way more opportunities to interact. But I kind of think of it like of the branches of a root of a tree, right? And you're just branching out your ideas, your perspective, your point of view, and you just get to know all these different people and
Yeah.
ideas. Let me ask you a specific question. So you were stuck doing Cornell notes, right? You had to do Cornell notes all day and all night. So Avid made a huge change like 5 years ago, where now they get to do any kind of notes they want. So what we're really focused on is the process of like, number one, reviewing your notes more than once, but highlighting, underlining, you know, putting questions, things that'll make you think, and then trying to make higher level questions, making connections. So it's really more of like the process of trying to learn, right? It's trying to get more towards what they would want you to do in college.
Mhm.
But what was it like? Do you remember like being a student as far as taking notes when you were in high school? How does it change when you go into college? And then maybe we'll talk about the college and the law school stuff and any
Sure.
questions students have.
Yeah, so yeah, in high school I did Cornell notes because I had to do Cornell notes because I needed notes for Avid. But honestly, I never liked Cornell notes. I just thought that I was stressed so much about the structure of it that that's what I would focus on. I'm more of an outline person. I like outlines more so than like traditional question answer Cornell notes. That's what works for me. I make my outlines. I take notes as outlines, and then to study, I make shorter outlines out of my reading notes, my class notes. I study them, I annotate them, and that's my note taking style now. I've done that since college, and I've kept that up through law school, and it's worked for me. That's what I like.
So do you remember what it was like? Did you use your notes in high school very much, or did you kind of like we just took them just because we had to for Avid? Because I mean that's fine, I get it. I didn't like the system either that we were forcing just one way, but
Yeah.
uh, what I'm trying to get at is just to get an idea of like, did you sometimes have to not really study your notes in high school, still get by, and then in college, how important are notes?
Yeah, so in high school,
Or
I personally, I didn't really have to study the way I had to study in college and now in law school. Um, it was more so like study a couple days before, and some people are different. Obviously, you're not able to get by studying just a couple days before an exam, but other people can even get by not studying at all. But in college, it's definitely different, just because there's no homework, there's no one really like on you telling you what to do. So your only job is to go to class, and then you have one big test at the end, and it's really all on you. So I definitely did use my notes heavily. Good note taking is so important, especially in law school, even more so than college. Now that I'm here, it's really all your notes. You have to really rely on your own notes because professors just talk and talk and talk and talk, and it's up to you really to digest the information, write down, and go back and review it. So for sure, note taking
they
is
don't write stuff down on the board usually, right?
no,
It's
no.
much different in that sense too, and they're much faster. Sometimes you'll record it even.
Yeah, they don't tell you what's important. Basically, you have to really
Kind
listen
of
and take in
decide.
information and decide yourself what is important. And that's why it's so important, because sometimes what you think is important during lecture, after reviewing your notes, you realize that's really not it, and something else is super crucial that you have to really understand and learn. So yeah, I mean, the thought of losing any of my notes is super scary
Yeah,
now.
that's why I'm glad that we made that change in Avid, because it's, to me, it made it, in my opinion, more realistic to try to now, okay, learn what good style works for you. So we've tried
Yeah.
different styles, and like you like outlines, and but again, like if you just take them, that's it. Like what that's if you then know how to take a note and then that's it. That's you think you're ready for college. Like that's the first step.
Yeah.
You have to then know how to use your notes, and everyone's different. How to use your notes to learn. And
Yeah.
like you said, there. I remember in college sometimes you really wouldn't have homework, so you're like, well, then what do I do? Well, you're supposed to learn, read books, take your notes, review them, because then you have a test, and it's worth a whole lot of points, kind of like an AP test. It's a
Mhm.
test oftentimes that covers, especially finals, covers the whole year. And so again, not everybody's going to college. So, right, all of high school isn't practicing this. High
Yeah.
school is teaching us certain skills and other things, but it's a big transition. So let's move on from that. But before then, what was your GPA like? And so what was it like to go from Montebello High School and then to go to UC Irvine? And maybe if you want to mention, how did you decide on Irvine? Did you kind of have a feeling already?
Yeah, so I'll start with why I chose Irvine. I'm really close to my family, so I knew that I didn't really want to go too far, but I didn't want to stay super local either because I didn't want to, move out of my house and kind of be on my own because you're still pretty dependent on your family even in college. And then the main factor of why I chose Irvine is because they gave me the most money. Finances were really important, and that was a huge reason of why I applied to the schools I applied to and why I decided to go to Irvine. Just student loans were something that I was worried about, especially because I didn't know I wanted to go to law school when I started UC Irvine, but I knew that my education probably wasn't over after undergrad. So yeah, finances were something that I thought of a lot. And what was the other part of the
Oops,
question? I forgot.
sorry, I went too far in this. Just to mention, I was the same way where I thought I was going to go to University of Laverne. I really liked it, and they promised me money, didn't get any. And then Point Loma gave me a full scholarship. So, and it again, sometimes you still might end up going into a school you really had your heart set on, even though you got a scholarship somewhere else. But I'm really glad I took the money, and sometimes you are going to make your decisions based on finances. So
Yeah.
what was it like going from Montebello High School to UC Irvine, like as a student? What was your GPA, more or less? Do you remember when you graduated high school, when you
In high
applied
school,
to?
Jesus, I don't remember. Ooh,
Because
I
I was
honestly,
very impressed by your GPA when I saw your resume the other day, and your college GPA was fantastic, and your law school GPA is also very high. So
thank you.
um,
I don't remember what my high school GPA was, but I mean, it was a good GPA.
was it above a 4.0 by any chance when you
No,
applied?
I think it was because I remember being upset that I wasn't at a 4.0, but it was almost a 4.0. So it was
So
still
let's say
it wasn't above.
3.8, 3.9. So just to get an idea of what type of student we're hearing from your experience, and so it gives you a context of, okay, this is the kind of student that she was. She was doing pretty well in high school. What was it like to go to college? So then, the more I think we know and learn when we're younger, before we go to college, right? The more we could do little things to prepare and to get a little bit ready. So what was it like going from high school to college? Do you remember, or how could you explain the difference?
Yeah, so it's definitely a huge difference. I mean, first of all, just geographically, you're moving from Montebello to Irvine. Montebello is low to medium income, all Latino or other minorities. Then you move to Irvine, which is one of the richest cities in California and in the US, and it's all very affluent white people. So just that was shocking in and of itself. The difference in the way the two cities looked was shocking. And then at UCI itself, you kind of it's even more shocking because you kind of realize what a small fish you are in the state, the country. You meet people who are your age who just graduated high school but who have had so much more experience than you have already. I've told Mr. D, my one of my housemates, my second year of college, she had already done cancer research by the time that she got to college. So obviously that's something that I did not know a high school student could do. I didn't know that opportunity was ever available to a high schooler. So it was
Honestly, until a few years ago, I didn't even understand that either. Like that's how quickly opportunities are coming and times are changing. But I didn't know that either. I didn't know what I could even be, let alone have examples or opportunities to volunteer or get internships. But man, if you start to realize that's a thing, now that everyone's listening knows that's a thing. Hey, that's a thing. Well,
yeah,
now you can start to look for those opportunities.
yeah.
Like we had a DA who she shared that, Riverside has a internship for high schoolers. So, right. Imagine if you had heard that when you were in high school.
Yeah, exactly. I didn't even know. I mean, now that I'm in law school, I hear of the programs that Loyola has with high schools, and I'm like, oh wow, like I had no idea that even
And
exists.
sometimes it's wealthy, you know, where people who have more wealth tend to bring more opportunities and
Yeah,
have other people bring it. And again, we're going to find them if we start looking, but we just have to look sometimes a little harder.
yeah, which sucks, but sadly, this is where we are, and that's what we have to do.
So we've got about 10 minutes. What was it like in college? Um, and then moving to law school. And then if anybody has a question, they could type them into the chat. We could try to get to them. But yeah, I know you've been through a lot of ups and downs and experiences. And how did you decide what you wanted to major in?
So I was always interested in psychology. I mean, that was one of my majors, as we saw from my vision board, that I wanted to be a psychologist. Um, and then since I was little, since we moved to the US, I really liked our immigration attorney. I had no idea what she did or why she was a lawyer or what her job entailed, but I just really liked her personally. So I was always really curious about law school and being a lawyer. But what you see, in the movies, you see courtrooms, you see very aggressive, loud, talkative people, and that was never me. I've always been more on the quiet side. I've never really been an argue like I don't really like to argue, so I never thought that it was a possibility for me, just because what I saw on TV and movies wasn't me. Like I didn't see myself as that kind of lawyer. But then I would go to my career counselor at UC Irvine, just because I was curious about law school. I just wanted to know if what we saw in the movies and TV was all that there was to it. And then I learned that there's different types of law, that you don't necessarily have to argue with another attorney to be a lawyer.
You don't even have to go to court. There's laws,
Exactly.
there's attorneys who don't have to go to court if they don't want to.
Most of the time, you really are not in court. So that's kind of how I was like, okay, all right, I guess I'm gonna do this. Throughout college, to be honest, I still wasn't 100% sure, just because I was scared. I heard stories about law school, and I just did not know whether it was something that I was willing to put myself through.
Me too. I doubted it. Again, until a few years ago, like so many more reasons I believe that these kids, they can do this stuff. And
Yeah.
we doubt ourselves, and that fear too. I
Mhm.
can't do that, or I haven't seen someone like me doing that. Well, go make yourself someone like that who does it, and now you can show others that you could do it. But no, it's normal to have those fears.
Yeah. Yeah, especially coming, from the community that I live in, that some of you live in as well. I had never met a lawyer in my life. No one in my life is a lawyer, or in my family, nothing. And then compare that to now that I'm in law school, it's even more shocking than when I went into UCI, because a lot of people at UCI, although they were from different backgrounds, a lot of them were still, came from middle class. But now in law school, it's like everyone I know lives in Beverly Hills. Their parents are lawyers or doctors, cousins, uncles, aunts. Like everyone has grown up in a lifestyle that I just didn't know, and I had never been around until I entered law school. So even then, it was more of a shock. I thought I had gotten over the culture shock when I went into UCI, but even more of it was waiting for me when I got to law school. But yeah, I forgot what the question was
No,
about UCI.
that's really interesting because studies show that when you see someone doing something, then you believe you could do it. You're way more likely to do it. And these a lot of the wealthier people, their parents from the beginning have encouraged them and focused on education, so they tend to believe in themselves. So it's kind of really important when someone like you breaks through, I guess we could say. And we have so many examples from Montebello High School in our community. But right then, you finally see it, or you have a brother or sister, or one day, you right now, and our students one day, they'll be the brother or sister who goes to college or does something to show inspiration to their brothers and sisters and others, to let them know, like, hey, I could do this too. And so I think it's very, 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 very important to understand kind of the point you're making too. It's something that's also normal to be
Mhm.
afraid of, to be shy, but it's also normal to doubt yourself. And thank goodness we have people like you to help us realize like you can do these things. Like I've done it. I'm not special. You realize a lot of people aren't as special as we think they are. We're just as special too. Everyone has talents. But I
Mhm.
remember even with the professor who she has a PhD, and I'm like, oh my God, you have a PhD? Well, yeah, she took the time to get the degree. I was saying that because she was not very smart as a professor. But I don't know, when I was younger, you just look at people and they just seem so far away and above you. And it's really hard to believe sometimes we could do this, but it's the hard work and it's the effort that goes in. So what were some of the challenges someone had asked that you had gone through in either college or in life or in law school? And any advice that you wish you had when you were in high school?
Um, yeah, I mean, as to the advice, I think it's what Mr. D was saying right now, to really just visualize yourself where you want to be and know that you can do it. I don't consider myself to be like naturally smart person or genius, no, like not at all. I think I'm pretty average when it comes to intelligence. I think what really made the difference for me is that I was willing to put in the time. Even though I was scared, I still did it. You just have to do it, because if you don't, somebody else will. And the years are gonna pass, and the years are passing, you could either be in the same spot, or you could be a lawyer. Like, regardless of how long it takes, all you have to do is just be willing to put in the time and the effort, and it's gonna happen for you. And I know that because it's been happening for me. I've been willing to put the time in the past. I don't even know how long it's been, since 2013, but all this time I've just been willing to put in the time. I've done the work, and it's coming to a conclusion now, almost in July. But yeah, just do it.